this episode, you'll discover why the most experienced rowers in a crew aren't thinking about every movement. They're hitting 3 checkpoints and trusting everything in between to take care of itself. 3 moments in the stroke cycle where you know you're in the right place, at the right time, in the right position, and in control. The finish, quarter slide, and 3/4 slide. Together, these are the architecture of a well-timed, well-balanced stroke. You'll learn why the finish is the single most powerful reference point in rowing and what makes it uniquely useful for masters athletes. What needs to happen at quarter slide that most rowers leave too late, and why 3/4 slide to the catch is the danger zone, where hull speed is either preserved or quietly destroyed.
Feel the grip of the oar handle, smooth yet firm in your hands. Taste the salt of your own sweat and the occasional splash of water. It's all part of the journey. Welcome to another episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Each week, our host, Masters rowing coach Rebecca Caro, dives deep into the world of Masters rowing. Whether you're on the water or in the gym, join us to become a faster master. Let's go rowing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back again. Today, we're going to spend some time on 3 really important reference points. These are all detailed in an article which I found by Robin Williams, the famous British rowing coach, and I will share the link to that in the show notes. We're going to start with the finish. Now, the finish is the only point in the stroke where the boat, the blades, and your body are all traveling together in the same direction, in the direction the boat is moving. Because while the blades are in the water, the tip of your blade is actually moving sternward, whereas your body is moving bowward. And moving bowward, of course, is where the boat is moving. So one of the things that gives the finish as a unique place is that it's really, really powerful and it's still. You find that you can be relaxed. You can sit as long as you like because you've done the work. By contrast, of course, at the catch, it's not the place to hesitate, and people are more relaxed instinctively when they're at the finish. You should feel balanced and symmetrical in yourself. Your center of gravity should be low, and you should feel that actually it's the most stable part of the stroke. What contributes to this is your posture. Your posture is open. Your arms and elbows are wide. Your chest is open. You're not compressed like you are at the catch, where, of course, with your legs bent and your chest is close to your thighs. And so you can then feel very still. You can feel that as soon as your hands move away, that is the moment where the finish is over. And those 3 things, the boat, the body, and the blades, are no longer all moving as one in the same direction. And of course, as your hands move away, your mass is starting to roll up the slide and move towards the stern. And that obviously is moving counter to the hull, the direction of the boat speed. If you're in control of yourself at this point in the stroke, you're in control of time. And if you feel rushed in the recovery, you can then use this point, the finish, to reset and get a deliberate feeling of calm and control here. This is why the drill that Robin Williams recommends here is single strokes to the finish. So you're going to have to take your oar out of the water, because otherwise, obviously, you'd be breaking the boat. But your handle should stay next to your body, feathered, so that you can feel that stillness in a pause in between each stroke. At that point, you want to check 3 things. Are your legs flat? Has your handle come out clean? Are you sitting tall? And then from that position, when you say go, you obviously roll up the slide, take a stroke, and then you can pause again. You can choose to pause every stroke or maybe every 3rd stroke. Now, moving off the finish, this is where a lot of people kind of lose the plot a little bit. And we're going to focus now on quarter slide. Here, you've got to have the body set before you can get the boat moving under you. So the first part of the recovery is for you, but the second part is for the boat. So this is the first part of the recovery. You've got to recover your body mass and start it moving in the right direction towards the stern. At quarter slide, what should be happening? Your handle has led your arms out from the finish, and the handle continues past your knees. And as a consequence of the handle moving away from you, as your arms straighten, then this draws your shoulders forward and it brings the rock over in your body, your trunk, quite naturally. So you should have a posture at quarter slide, which is nearly identical to the posture you will have at the catch, from your hips up to your shoulders. You obviously will have bent your legs more when you get to the catch, but your body lean, the extent of your arms reaching forward and your shoulders being forward of your hips, that should all be set roughly by quarter slide. If you don't get your handle to your knees and past your knees, what happens is you tend to row very upright. You don't get the consequential trunk movement, your shoulders rocking forwards. And the risk here is that you then rock your shoulders forward later in the recovery, which disrupts that second part of the recovery. Remember what we said, the first part of the recovery is for you, the second part is for the boat. So you don't give the boat what it needs in the second part. Also, if you lift your handles too early, so you don't keep weight in your hands, what you'll find is that later on, you then have to push the handle down in order to have room to square. And that is another disruption. If you're in a sweep boat, there's a very nice little rule of thumb that you can follow for the quarter slide point. Here, when you rock over, if you imagine you've taken a straight line from your nose through to your sternum, which is the middle of your chest, and you want to rock over so that that line from your nose to your sternum, and your chin obviously is in the middle of that, all line up with your inside knee. And that gives you the angle, the diagonal that you need to be rolling towards on your upper body as you rock forwards. So if you look down, pause at quarter slide, where is my inside knee? And is it in line here with the middle of my chest, my chin, and my nose? If you're a rower who rows with your head on one side, your nose and chin won't line up with your sternum. So it's quite important to keep your head vertical. And if you tip your shoulders particularly, you'll find that affects your head and it affects your ability to get this 3-point line up. In sweep, of course, if both bow and stroke side, port and starboard, complete this weight shift by quarter slide, you will get your balance set before any significant sliding happens. And so you can then sit very still, relax, and let the boat come to you. Now, if you feel that you're slow or late at this part in the stroke, you may find that you rush the slide in order to feel like you're catching up. And this, of course, destroys the reference point that you've created at quarter slide. So checking at quarter slide is your kind of antidote to feeling rushed on the recovery. So do some quarter slide rowing. Just row to quarter slide and you can pause. Check your body weight. You can do full slide rowing, pausing at quarter slide. And start low rate so that you have plenty of time to check at quarter slide that you are in exactly the position that you need to be at. If you then want to start practicing that at higher rates, just rowing quarter slide rowing will naturally, of course, bring the rate up. And this, you can then layer on top of it more pressure. so that you go faster and you're still checking that you've got the quarter slide position right, because you really want to entrench this as a very important second check in our 3 check point. Our third point is where hull speed is lost most often, and this is 3/4 slide. So this is our danger zone that I mentioned earlier. When you are rolling up the recovery, moving up the slide, your mass is about 5 to 7 times the mass of the hull of the boat. Boats are actually quite light. You know, even with riggers and oars, they are quite light relative to how much the athletes weigh. So if you are sliding faster than the hull, your mass works against the boat because your mass is moving to the stern. And of course, the boat is moving forwards towards the bow. So going fast up the recovery, faster than the hull underneath you up the recovery, will slow your boat. And one way to think about this is imagine yourself doing squat jumps. You've probably done these. You bend down to the floor, get your bum down close to your heels, and then you jump up, extend your arms, and jump as high as you can. And you then land on your feet again, go back down, jump up. Sliding too fast is like when you come down too fast and you drop your weight on the downward squat of the squat jump. That makes you feel heavier on the floor, and then it's much harder from there to then jump back up again. And it's the exact same effect on the hull of the boat when you are rushing on the slide. So any uncontrolled mass is going to slow the boat before you've even made the catch. So what to check at 3/4 slide? Are your hand heights low enough that you could square your blade if needed? Okay. Because remember, you don't want to have to vary the height of the oar handle more than once in the recovery. So the finish has taken the oar out of the water and dropped the handle down to a certain level. And you ideally need it to stay at that level until you lift the handle at the catch. What you don't want is a corrugation where it comes up and has to go back down again. So you've got room to square and then come up again for the catch. Make sure your upper body is relaxed. You should have minimal pressure on the foot stretcher, and your chest and shoulders should be balanced over your feet, particularly in the sculling. And even in the sweep, you should feel a small balance on your feet. And you should get the feeling that your boat is free under your feet. You're not putting the brakes on. You're not having to push hard on your feet to slow yourself. So you should feel like you're a car, perhaps in neutral gear at this point. So one way to test this is to row at 3/4 slide. Just drop down for 5 to 10 strokes, row at 3/4 slide, and then go back to full slide. Now, many of us have boat speed electronics on board. And if you don't lose hull speed, so if your boat speed is the same at 3/4 slide as it is at full slide, that's a sign that you're not being as effective as you could be in that last quarter of the slide. Okay, so watch your speed, drop down to 3/4 slide, 10 strokes, watch the speed again, come back up to full slide. So your balance needs to be quite low. Your center of mass needs to be low because your only balance at this point is really on your feet. So you've got to be quite free up top and not braced. So you're poised, but you're not a sack of potatoes, which is sort of slumped and just sort of sitting any old how. There's a very deliberate posture that you're in. As we said earlier, it's the same posture for your torso as it was at quarter slide, but obviously, of course, your knees have lifted and your legs have compressed. So one way to find out whether you're doing this right is to do something that Robin Williams calls shadow rowing. You row the recovery without holding the oars. Now, you can do this on the land, perhaps sitting on a rowing machine, or you can have your crewmates sit the boat and you just push your oar handles away so that you can move freely up and down the slide, miming with your hands without actually holding onto the oar handle. Maybe shut your eyes so that you have a very clear mental picture of the positions that you're trying to be in, and call out each position as you go through it. Finish, quarter slide, 3/4 slide. And when you name the thing, it sort of sharpens your awareness of it. So it might be strange, but actually saying it out loud. And if you're in a crew and you're doing it with 2 or 4 of you together, are you naming it at exactly the same point? Because, of course, the alignment across the crew of your timing at each of these 3 points is part of the key and why we're doing this. So here we go. We've only got 3 rowing reference points on the finish. And the finish resets you. It gives you time. The quarter slide sets your body before the boat really begins to move. And 3/4 slide is where you either preserve or lose your hull speed. So you don't need to think about everything. You do need to use these 3 anchor points and have discipline to return to them if the boat balance and flow is falling apart, if it's not really working for you. And remember, when you get tired or you're under pressure, so maybe at the end of a long practice or in a race, that is the moment to refocus back in onto these 3 checkpoints so that you can check that you're still doing them right and that they're still aligned and giving you exactly what you need in your recovery. I hope you'll join us on our newsletter. Till next time.
We are part of the RowingChat podcast network. Please tell your fellow rowers about the show. If you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.